So, what about episode 7 of The Acolyte? I mean, the last time we talked about this, I had some clips that were in there that were absolutely, just simply on the face of them, atrocious. And now, with the context of a couple of days and a bunch of reviews under my belt, I can go ahead and confirm that everything that we were talking about back then, yeah, it's just as stupid, even with the addition of what else was going on in that episode. Star Wars Theory. Okay, the largest independent voice in that space has called it even worse than The Last Jedi. And while, in regards to canon and the lore, maybe not specifically as bad as The Last Jedi, just from a sheer production, from a sheer stupidity aspect, oh yeah, definitely. I could hear the arguments that episode 7 of The Acolyte, the least viewed, least respected streaming show by a franchise at its absolute lowest, yeah, no, it probably is the worst. And it's so bad that even the Shills are trying to hop off this rapidly sinking lifeboat. Or even you had, former staunch defender as early as last week, Grace Randolph, come out and say, well, episode 7, yeah, it sure was awful. After, previously saying that criticism of this show was hate speech, and if you didn't like it, well, you're just an hysterophobe, right? But YouTube personality Grace Randolph has finally turned on Walt Disney Company and Lucasfilm and described the most recent episode as, that was awful. Oh, it was awful. Randolph shared her initial thoughts on X, simply writing with a Kim Kardashian clip, or rather GIF, because even when she's being somewhat based, she still has to be at least a little bit cringe. Oh man, that was awful! Randolph's about face on the show was quite dramatic. Back in June, when the first 2 episodes premiered, Randolph was calling a majority of the people criticizing the show as grifters. Interesting. She wrote on June 6th, I think it's funny that anti-Acolyte people are yelling shill at anyone who likes it, yet the hate is largely being driven by people who are making money off of it, aka grifters. You just need to like the slop. After calling people criticizing the show grifters and making it clear she had a problem with it, Randolph hypocritically followed up by writing, by the way, I have no problem if you don't like The Acolyte. Oh, really? Because it kind of seems like you do. There is no need to go full Sith on it. Why? It's really bad. It makes no sense at all whatsoever. Less than a week after describing the majority of people disliking the show as grifters, Randolph claimed that Disney would struggle to cast people in Star Wars moving forward. Oh my god, right, she said all of this dumb stuff. Because the actors were receiving hate without, providing any evidence. But, oh no, you could go to Jake Lloyd. Oh right, all of that hate, yeah, that was fictitious. What about Ahmed Best, the guy who played Jar Jar Binks? He actually got hate, right? Oh no, that all came from the media. Oh shucks, and Grace, well, she's one of those establishment types, so she wouldn't bring that up. What about Kelly Marie Tran, Rose Tico? She got all of that hate, right? Oh right, never provided one receipt at all. But Amanda Stenberg, okay, the current star of this show, I don't know if any of her accusations, I don't know if she dropped her diss track by the time that Grace made this post, but perhaps, she'll eventually come forward with any instances of racism, sexism, bigotry. She'll eventually, right? She'll finally be the one to break the trend of making the accusations and not providing any receipts for it. She'll be the one, right? In Amanda we trust. But yes, she said, I will say that I think it's going to be very hard for Disney to cast upcoming Star Wars projects because this level of hate just isn't worth it, even for up-and-coming actors like poor Lee Jung-jae, coming off of Squid Game, doing a great job on The Acolyte, and for what? And what ended up making this extra stupid was, at least at the time, prior to episode, I would say 5, okay, where he was starting to make some really stupid decisions as the character, like his performances, even in episode 6. Didn't hear anything but just, bad things about his character in episode 7, but, in episode 6, he was still emoting his ass off, okay, delivering some of the best acting performances on the show. So the fact that, Grace wants to go ahead and make accusations that Lee Jung-jae is getting heat, that just doesn't bore out in reality. So that's what makes Grace's about face very interesting, because I would like to see any sort of clarification on her stance. Okay, just 3 days after the post, she claimed that critics were taking on hate speech quality. She wrote on June 14th, I understand why that's really tough on both my voice and the ears, so I'll just go ahead and shelve that for a second. Of you are frustrated with Star Wars right now, but I'm by no means trying to tell you your feelings are wrong. I do feel the loudest voices against the Acolyte are taking on hate speech qualities, and that does not help your cause. But see, I can say that I feel this because feelings can't be wrong, and because I don't have any proof of that, and I just want to make backhanded remarks at people that I don't like, I could just simply say, well, I feel like they're bigots. As for me, I genuinely like the show. I'm excited for you to see episode 4 on Tuesday. Wow, so she liked the show after the first flashback episode, huh? Interesting. You really got taken aback by the power of one, the power of two, the power of many. The best of the 4 episodes I saw in advance. Right. The Acolyte videos are meant to be a space for people who do like the show, and those who might not like it are open to discussing it. And yeah, no, there's been plenty of discussion, both about the show and around the show, but now that you've lost one of your staunchest defenders, somebody who would even go ahead and simply lash out at detractors, who in the blue hell does Lucasfilm have left? Okay, you have jettisoned with your poor writing, your poor sets, with your basement tier presentation. Who in the blue hell do you have left? Well, I got good news for you, because you still have Kotaku and you still have Alyssa Mercante. I mean, I was over there at Lucasfilm and the last person defending me was one of the biggest laughingstocks of the internet. I would think that it's probably time to just pack it up, okay? I wouldn't even bother releasing episode 8. I would just go ahead and leave this series completely and totally just twisting in the wind and just go, we tried something, it didn't work. All right, peace out. We'll see you for Skeleton Crew. Because if this is the quality of arguments defending your show, if you're mad about the Acolyte, I don't see too many people mad about it. I just see people disappointed that things could actually get worse and what they thought the bottom could be. You haven't been paying attention to Star Wars. The latest episode of Star Wars Disney Plus series shows the danger of a Jedi's hubris. I'm sorry, what? The Acolyte's new Disney Plus Star Wars series, set in the High Republic era, has been open about its intentions from the jump, portray the Jedi Order at the height of its power, and show how they're responsible for their own fall from grace, the same fall we watched play out over the prequels over 20 years ago. So they're telling a story that is set 87 years before the exact same fall that took place. Okay. But despite the Acolyte's consistency in depicting that vision, consistency and the Acolyte, are you saying that in the same sentence? Brother. The fetid Sarlacc pit that is a certain corner of the Star Wars fandom. Oh, okay. Actually, you know what? Hey, I gotta give Mercante at least a little bit of credit. It took half a paragraph to get into blaming everybody else and making this about her own personal tragedy. Showed a bit of restraint, guys, okay? And otherwise running a piece of media they've made their entire personality. The latest episode of The Acolyte only fueled those fires, even though it echoes sentiments and sorrows first seen in 1999's The Phantom Menace. Yeah, by, retroactively diminishing the impact of the Chosen One of Anakin Skywalker. No, just the tiny things like that. Don't worry about it. Episode 7, titled Choice, jumps back to the events we first saw in Episode 3. For a Jedi encounter a coven of witches. They're lesbian space witches, you bigot. On Brendok, a planet believed to be devoid of life, and then they had to figure out if there was actually life by giving the Wookiee Jedi Kalnaka a metal detector to find the Force in the ground, because we know that the Force is something that isn't consistent and all living things. That's why you need a detector for it. But yes, earlier in the episode, it appears that May, who is more loyal to the Coven than her sister, locks Osha in the room after she says, okay, if you're going to leave, I'm going to kill you. That's not being hyperbolic. She says that. Starts a fire, keeps her from leaving, and the fire kills her mother and all the other witches. It doesn't show that the fire kills anybody. Let's be specific on that. May and Osha find each other in a burning building just before May to apparently fall to her death, while Osha is rescued by Sol, who has this brilliant idea of using his Force abilities to hold up a bridge, but not the two kids potentially falling, because this show was really well written. Before the latest episode, we knew that things were more complicated than that. Yeah, we knew that. We just, tried to figure out how they'd make the witches sympathetic after they were shown to mind control little Padawan Torben, and how they could reconcile horny space lesbian mother who carried them, not the mother that created them. How they would soften the blow of her saying, why don't we just kill them? And would the Jedi Order really miss 4 of them? How would they make that one work? I mean, Mercante being, peak Mercante with this one. Now we know exactly what happened on that faithful night, and it paints a stark picture of the Jedi's fallibility. Even though after watching episode 7, you realize that it was a lot of Jedi self-defense. It was the space witches being super aggressive, trying to kill the Jedi. So the fact that they were the ones that ended up dead is what the Jedi did nothing wrong. Anyways, the dangers of the assumption and the flaws of tying a religious group to a governing body. That's very interesting, okay, because that's supposed to be a critique of the Jedi and how closely they work with the Galactic Senate. But what about the space lesbian witches that run a planet outside of the confines of the Republic? How do you square that circle? Oh, right. If you ask those questions, you're just a sexist bigot who likes attacking women, and Alyssa Mercante specifically. That's the quality of your defenders that you have out there, Kathleen Kennedy, Leslye Headland, Lucasfilm. This is what you have left, and trust me, it's only going to get worse after episode 8, after you guys continue to run your mouth. So with all that said, thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.